Hey, what's going on everybody? This is Micah just checking in for another video log as far as my series is concerned with transitioning off into a contest prep into a building phase. And you know, this is something that's really close to my heart just because I'm actually taking a year and a half to take the time to build properly. And when you're a natural athlete, you know, you want to take as much time as possible so that you are able to put on the proper progression to your physique, so that when you step on stage again, you're not bringing the same package that you brought the previous 6 months ago or a year ago, but giving yourself some time to actually build and take that time to build up those weaker points. But that's just a side note. As far as this series is concerned, going into the nutrition component, this really does play a big factor when it comes down to transitioning off of prep. Everything is centered around food. I don't care who you are, when you're contest prepping, you almost get into the zone. You're tunnel vision. You got your eyes on the prize. You know the date that you're going to be stepping on stage. As you get closer and closer to a show, either gets really hard or really easy, just because you're in a routine, you're in a habit of prepping your food. You know what week to week, what it looks like, what foods you need to get at the grocery store. You know what to do as far as your tracking is concerned. You can almost pretty much you're almost in like a robot mode of what you need to do week to week, day to day, hour to hour, minute by minute when you're on a contest prep. Once the prep is over, once you're done stepping off that stage, you start having the celebrations and you start eating food, you become normal. It gets really easy to get out of that tunnel vision and keeping that focus and understanding that eventually you almost reverse back into whatever you were doing before stepping on stage, and you lose all that time and you almost feel like you've backtracked too much to get back into it. And this plays a big role into my last video, my first video of the series, which is the emotional psychological state that you are undertaking as you get out of a contest prep. But food is everywhere, and it's part of our culture, it's part of our society, and basically you have to eat to live. You can't just avoid eating. And so if there's no set date for a show, it gets really easy to say, I don't need to track that. Hey, it's a free day. Hey, I'm going to go YOLO on that. But I'd like to just discuss on what you can do to help with not having to go YOLO and really how can you have a balance between rebuilding yourself and really still staying focused. So that's why I brought up goal setting in the last video. Is what are you looking to do? What are you looking to accomplish? What are you looking to really bring the next time you step on stage? If that's the place that you want to be. If you want to try and explore some other option, that's totally cool, but really it's about goal setting. And this is what's going to help tailor what you're going to do with nutrition. So typically what happens is in a contest prep, even leading up to the peak week, the last week of training, you still have leftover food from that time. You bulk cook, you know, you have leftovers. Utilize that during that first week out of that prep. Continue to stay focused and driven and understand that you're gonna have these leftovers. Start planning ahead. Begin to understand that you're gonna not be prepping anymore. You're gonna be able to increase your food. This is a good thing to get out of that deficit. Now, some people relate this to the concept of reverse dieting. Here's my thoughts on reverse dieting. You don't necessarily have to go at a super slow pace to get your calories where they need to be to begin a building phase. It really depends on the person and how they acclimate to higher calories. And having a plan on how you're going to approach this. Hopefully, if you have a coach, they kind of walk you through some guidelines to follow after a prep, just so that you keep that focus and you start rebuilding to your new maintenance calories. That is the first goal, is to understand that you need to get to your new maintenance. As you lose body fat in a contest prep, as you lose weight, it becomes apparent that your body becomes super efficient at a low calorie diet and low macros, and it's going to conserve as much energy. The whole function of the body is to remain in homeostasis. It's going to do everything possible to stay within that realm. And when you start increasing calories, it's gonna get a lot happier, but it still has to adapt to what that looks like. And it's really different on you know, the person to person and how their body responds to how fast you increase calories. For me particular, I can actually respond really well to increasing my calories, increasing my macros fairly quickly after a prep. My body is so depleted, I almost have to go into poverty macros for a pretty long, extensive period of time throughout my prep, just so that I can be stage ready. And I'm totally fine with that. And at the same time, when I get off a prep, I know that I can increase calories fairly quickly. This is where food journaling comes into a big place. If you were tracking your food throughout your prep, even before your prep, and you understand what your trends are and where your macronutrients fell and how your body responded at a higher calorie, this is going to paint you a picture of how you can approach it in the building phase and how you get out of a contest prep and start building yourself up. For me personally, I can handle a lot of carbohydrates. My fat's not necessarily that has to come up slowly, but eventually I can get it pretty high. But carbs, my body is able to absorb it, able to utilize it fairly quickly. And as you increase your macronutrients, your carbs, your fats, and life feels a lot more wonderful, you don't actually need as much protein in your diet. So I'm actually going to link a video with Alan Aragon's. He did like a seminar on protein. One of the topics was protein and really what it looks like for a deficit, a surplus, maintenance, just some recent research, the most recent and current research out there with guidelines on how much protein do you need throughout the course of a day. And so I'm going to link that there. He explains it a lot better than I could and basically backs it up with the research that's out there. And another thing to note is you can increase your calories. What I did was that first week I went right into my refeed macros. Started Monday, refeed macros. See how my body responded after a couple days. My body responded super well with doing it that way. And I was able to actually increase my calories, my macros even further just within the first few days because I was actually not gaining any weight. My body was, staying the same. And throughout the second week, I was able to bump it up again. The idea is you want to find that new maintenance, that happy medium where you're not gaining any weight. If you're losing weight, you're still in a deficit and you want to increase your calories. Yes, you're gonna get a little fluffy. Yes, you're gonna get to you may even get to the weight that you were initially at when you started contest prep, but it really just depends. People need to realize that when you get off of prep and you're in a building phase, your body has to be in a happy state to be able to start building. What do I mean by that? Let's say you were 4 to 5% body fat during your contest prep, and typically, normally, you're at 10 to 12%. If your body is not happy and it's still in a lower body fat, it's gonna be really hard to really get some gains and really start making some progress. So it's really about where you personally are when it comes down to a happy medium. Yeah, you can be at your lower body fat, but at the end of the day, you can't just be shredded year round. Like for most people, their set point is a little different, and really what's gonna, help them to stay on point. And so just realize that that's part of the process. You're not taking any enhancements. This is natural. And so, I understand that my typical body fat and happy weight is 160 to 165 easy, and then my body fat typically ranges from like 12 to 14%. I'm totally okay with that. I understand that, but once I get there, my body responds super well. It doesn't matter what type of workout it is, as long as the calories are coming in, I'm able to really maximize my strength and also build some lean muscle tissue. And this is something that as I continue the process, as I lean down, I'm going to be able to see that progress that I've made in that year and a half. So it's really about trying to make that awareness that you're going to gain body fat. We all can't be Alberto Nunez and be somewhat lean throughout the whole course of the year and stay in the single digits. But like I said, the idea in a building phase is that you're gonna put on weight. Now, I'm not saying that you gain like 20-30 pounds in the first 2 weeks. No. What you typically want to see is when you're an experienced lifter, experienced athlete, typically 1 to 2 pounds per month is something that you can expect to see throughout the course of progress. When you are a newbie, when you're somebody that hasn't been training for very long, maybe within like a year, 2 years, you're still a noob to the game, and you can make some noob gains, and you can gain like 3-4 pounds a month. And it's kind of it's a good thing, and it's also a bad thing, because eventually you think that you set these expectations so high when you first start, but then as you get deeper into experience, it takes a lot longer to put on that muscle mass. And so I almost feel like I don't want to say like I'm super experienced, that I'm like the top of the notch, a top athlete, but I know that it's going to take some time for me to build up my physique, and being able to really take the time to build up my nutrients. One of my friends, when I first started bodybuilding, this made a lot of sense to me when he said it. He basically said, if you want a successful contest prep, you need to have a successful off-season or building phase. And it just rolls around, like year-round, being able to have that focus, understanding that nutrition plays a huge role, being able to continue to track your food, weigh out your food, measure your food, understand have a plan, because that's what's going to really help you stay on point. I'm not saying that you have to be super anal about it in the off season or building phase, but realize that if you don't track your food, if you don't know where your baseline is, when you go into a contest prep, it's going to be extremely hard for you, if you're working with a coach, to really know where to start. And it's going to be a guessing game for those first couple weeks, and you've already lost a couple weeks. And we all know what can happen in 1 to 2 weeks or 3 weeks of a contest prep when you don't have any results and trying to figure that out. Just think if you already had that data ready and locked and loaded from day one, of the progress that you have. So it really just ties into lifestyle and really putting that perspective. One side note, if you were like extreme deficit and almost in poverty macros, basically what you can do is you can center your food, like higher calorie foods, like your higher carbohydrates, around your workouts. So say you work out in the morning, make sure that you have something in the morning with some carbohydrates, proteins, and fats, and then after your workout, do the same thing. And that way you can see if your body is able to tolerate. I'm not saying that you have to do it that way, but that's just one of the things that you can do to help out with increasing your calories, because that's going to help with the gym, be able to help you to have the energy. That you're going to be utilizing those type of calories during that time. Just helps out with the digestive process. But you don't have to do it that way. That's just one way to do it if you're extremely in an extreme deficit, poverty macro wise. But for me personally, I hope this helps. I didn't want to go too deep into, what should I do? Should I increase it 5 grams per week, 25 grams of carbs per week? It really comes down to how your body responds. And hopefully you tracked your data throughout the course of your prep, throughout the course of your even weeks leading into before you even started prepping, so that you understand your trends and how your body responded to macronutrient breakdowns. And like I said, for me personally, I can respond really well to higher carbs, moderate fat, and lower protein in a building phase. And like I said, I'll put that link in the link below for Alan Aragon's little snippet of protein recommendations and guidelines off recent data and research. And if you have any comments or any suggestions, please don't hesitate to put them in the comments below. I'm more than happy to make like a follow-up video on questions, comments. And other than that, thanks for following. The next one, we'll actually talk about workouts and what that really looks like for training and then going into a building phase. But thanks for watching. Hopefully this was helpful for you folks. But I appreciate all your support throughout my contest prep and now as I transition into my building phase. All right, have a good one. Bye-bye.